call committee meeting of this day, January 15. We're getting ready to start. If you will start behaving yourselves. Sit down. Thank you very much. I'm going to start the consent agenda. I already have removed some items that Council Lady Mina Johnson requested. If you guys have any other items you want me to pull out, just let me know. Just use the secret handshake to indicate that, and I'll do it. So first item on the consent agenda is RS 2019-1560. It authorizes Rev LLC DBA, the Nash Collection, to construct and install aerial encroachments at 212 Broadway. RS 2019-1561. It authorizes DBAP LLC DBA Stock and Barrel to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 901 Gleaves Street. Council Lady Henderson? She's not here. Okay, somehow somebody pushed that button. You guys are so funny. All right. BL 2018-1388. It abandons an existing sanitary sewer main and easement, and to accept a new sanitary sewer main manhole, and easements for a property located at 3964 Woodlawn Drive.
Are we on consent?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, please vote that on consent.
Yes, ma'am. BL 2018-1442, as amended, it approves the acquisition of property from 4 parties and approves a participation agreement, a license agreement, and an easement agreement between Metro Government and Uptown Property Holdings, LLC, in connection with the development of the Nashville Yards project in downtown Nashville. Pull that one? All right. BL 2019-1458 by Bedney and O'Connell. It authorizes Hickory Woods Senior Living LLC to install and construct and maintain aerial and underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 0 Murfreesboro Pike. BL 2019-1459 by Bedney and O'Connell. It authorizes SP, LLU, and Opus 29 LLC to install, construct, and maintain underground encroachments in the right-of-way located at 300 31st Avenue North. BL 2018-1403 by Syracuse and Bedney. It amends the Metro Code relative to underground utilities. All right. BL 2018-1414 by Hastings. Councilmember Hastings is here. Yes, please. I'm going to move this one to the hill. BL 2018-1424 by Councilmember O'Connell. It changes 4.63 acres from IR to IG zoning for property located at Lebanon Pike. BL 2018-1427 by Councilmember Anthony Davis. There is a letter to approve. It changes 1.51 acres from CL R10 and R6 to MULA zoning for property located at 1600 Riverside Drive and 1600 Porter Road. BL 2018-1428 by Syracuse and Bedney. It changes 0.39 acres from OR20 to MUL zoning for the property located at 2540 Park Drive. BL 2018-1429 by Councilmember Elrod. It changes 2.05 acres from R8 to RM20-A zoning for a property located at 522 Paragon Mills Road. Bill 2018-1430 by Councilmember John Cooper. Is Councilmember Cooper here? There is no letter to approve here. I'll move it to the Hill. BL 2018-1439. There's another one here that Councilmember Swope is not here, so I'm going to move this one to the Hill as well. I'm talking about BL 2018-1439. BL 2018-1432 by Councilmember Sledge. It changes 0.13 acres from R6 to OR20 zoning for a property located at 49 Wharf Avenue. BL 2018-1433 by Councilmember O'Connell. It changes 0.14 acres from MUN to MULA zoning for property located at 1239 6th Avenue North. BL 2018-1434 by Councilmember Kendall. It changes 0.2 acres from RS5 to R6A zoning for a property located at 1523 14th Avenue North. There is a letter to approve. BL 2018-1435, also by Councilmember Hastings. I'm going to move it to the Hill. BL 2018-1437 by Councilmember Kindle. It changes 0.17 acres from RS5 to MULA zoning for property located at 701 Lena Street. There is a letter to approve. And those are the items on the consent agenda. Any comments? Do you guys want to pull anyone out? Do I have a motion to approve? We have a motion. Do I have a second? I need a second. Sorry? Absolutely. 1560, 1561, 1458, 1459, 1403, 1424, 1427, 1428, 1429, 1432, 1433, 1434, 1437, and I have Councilmember Cooper and Hastings here, so I'm going to read their legislation as well so we can include them in the consent. If you give me a minute. Councilmember Hastings' legislation is BL 2018-1414. It changes 2.7 acres from CL and R8 zoning to SP zoning for property located at 2210 and 2216 Buena Vista Pike and Buena Vista Pike and number to permit a mixed-use development. The legislation by Councilmember Cooper is BL 2018-1430. It changes 0.57 acres from R6 to CSA zoning for property located at 5012 and 5014 Kentucky Avenue, 1202 51st Avenue North, 1003 1003B 51st Avenue North, and 5100 Michigan Avenue. And there is another one by Councilmember Hastings, and that is BL 2018-1435. It changes 1.65 acres from SPR to RM15 zoning for various properties located on 9th Avenue North. $14.35, we'll remove that one. Okay. Is there any question about the other ones? Can I get a motion again to approve, please? And we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Oppose? All right, we're going to start going through the items that were pulled out. First item is RS 2019-1531 by Bircher and Bedne. It declares surplus and approves the disposition of certain parcels of real estate in accordance with Section 224050G of the Metro Code of Laws. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I do have a couple, or maybe more than a couple, questions about this surplusing various parcels. And I don't know whom to address, so I will start with our Councilor Jameson. This is a surplus, and so this is not the giveaway but sale. So it requires adjacent property owner to pay for the surplus parcel?
That is correct, and they pay the price that is the property assessor's most recent appraisal of that property, and in the event no one meets that or is willing to pay that, they'll go to the highest bidder that meets the adjacent property description.
Thank you. For the most of the parcel, I have no problem because it's 0.02 acre to somewhere around 0.15 acre. But I do have a question about, let's see, 0 Ogle Avenue, it's 0.35 acres. And another one is also 0 Delaware Avenue, 0.42 acres. And especially that Delaware one, 0.42 acres, it's assessed as $238,000. And I think this one, last time Council Lady Allen raised the question, it may be if the parcel is as big, it might be a great candidate for affordable housing construction. So I was wondering if administration consider those kind of possibility.
In addition to the size of the lot, some of the lots were constrained by either setback requirements or floodplain placements and other constrictions that made them non-buildable. I do have in my office a memo from planning summarizing those constraints and can get them to you before tonight's regular meeting. I don't know the details of those particular parcels, and if the planning table can add to that, would welcome that.
Yeah, that would be greatly helpful. Because I know this other one I mentioned, Delaware is right next to Interstate 40, so that might be the constraint, even though the land seems to be a little larger, but I will be interested before passage of this evening.
There's also an amendment.
Council Lady, according to the list that I have, the 0 Delaware Avenue was requested by Metro Water for the purposes of building, I think, a retention pond in that neighborhood. I think in a previous round of surplus non-buildable parcels, they had gotten 2 other parcels, and this one they needed to complete that retention pond. That was the note I had on that, and then I think planning may have the note on Olga Avenue.
So I was just able to look it up, in the Olga Avenue one, although it is a bit larger, it only has a 10 feet of frontage, street frontage, making it really difficult to build. That's not even generally wide enough for any sort of drive, and it's also of a odd, irregular shape.
Sure. So 2 other questions. Since we are surplusing, I just noticed 1504 Jewel Street. So 0.02 acre is surplus, but right next to it is 1506 Jewel Street. It's same condition. I think it's 0.05 acres. I was wondering why it was not surplus, as well as 1601 Scoville Street, because 1603 Scoville Street, 0.01, is surplus, but literally adjacent triangular lot, 0.02 acre, is not surplus. So is there any reason not to surplus at the same time? Who will be making those decisions? Is this administration or coming from the planning?
You're on.
Council Lady, typically, the Division of Public Property recommends these parcels for surplus to you. They generally operate on interest being expressed in a surplus or by an adjacent property owner because that's who it's offered to. So it could be that 1603 had interest expressed. I don't know particularly if that's the case, but generally that would account for why you're seeing some of these parcels in front of you now versus other parcels that may be adjacent. Does that make sense?
Yes, I'm just curious because it was literally adjacent. One is triangle, one is rectangle, and pretty much identical acreage. So I was just wondering if it was, one is surplus and why not the other one?
And the other parcel may be before you in a future round if someone expresses interest in that parcel.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Council Lady Berkeley Allen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to thank the very patient people at Planning and Public Property who sat down with me and sort of walked me through this process of why none of these would be appropriate to give either the nonprofits or our newly formed community land trust. And as part of that, there was an explanation about, that if there are back tax properties or things like that Metro owns and they are big enough, that's part of what immediately gets sent through the Barnes Fund through that process. So it was helpful to me to sort of get the detailed explanation of which properties Metro sets aside and puts in the queue to possibly be used for nonprofits to build reasonably priced housing on, which is something that we desperately need. So at this point, I'm comfortable that all of these have been thoroughly vetted, and I appreciate the folks who went through and patiently explained all those properties. Thank you.
Thank you for your consideration. I think it's an important point that you were trying to raise, so I appreciate you doing that. Council Lady Kathleen Murphy.
Thank you. So these are surplus, they're not delinquent tax sales, is that right?
They're typically acquired through the back tax.
But we got them through back tax sales, but then we're surplusing them. So they're Metro property.
Yeah.
Okay, so just for the viewing public and for us to be clear, so my legislation that we had passed earlier this year, if surplus property like this comes before us after, July 1st, I guess, let me back up. Where does this money go now?
The proceeds generally go to the department that would have otherwise had this, but absent that, it's the general fund. It goes to the general fund.
And would my legislation apply to this post January 1st or July 1st?
July 1st, yes.
July 1st. It would.
Yes.
I'm willing to make the motion and be at the will of the committee to defer this until to the first meeting in July.
Is a motion to defer to the first meeting in July. There is a second discussion. Councilmember Sledge.
Thank you, Chair, and I appreciate the discussion in the committee. I think this is a little bit of a different situation. I'm speaking on the deferral motion. I think this is a little bit of a different situation opposed to my understanding is when we passed legislation regarding selling property, it was basically at the expense of balancing our budget, right? To say that we're not going to sell property to essentially make operating funds. And I would ask our counsel that, but he's taking care of other things right now. So I will hold that question for when he comes back. I'll have another question depending on the deferral motion, but for now, I'd like to just get that clarified. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember. Anybody else wants to talk about the deferral motion? Councilmember Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I understood the Delaware Avenue property will be used for detention pond, so I would like to know if us deferring after July 11th, it will interfere the plan with Metro Water service. Is there
Anybody from Metro Water that can answer that question?
Good afternoon, John Honeysucker, Metro Water. Right now, there have been quite a bit of stormwater concerns in that district, which is affecting Council Member Murphy's district and Council Lady Kendall's district. I guess where it comes down in that Delaware right there with the state. And also there's been some things with the state right under the interstate, so we're trying to alleviate that stormwater runoff.
Thank you. Councilor Johnson?
Thank you. So if that's the case, I'm a little reluctant to defer till July. And if Council Lady Murphy would like to have a little more information, I am fine with deferring one meeting to get more information. So if Council Lady changed the motion to one meeting, I'm inclined to support.
Councilor Lady Murphy?
So two things have come up. One, not realizing where this the Delaware property was, and that it was affecting, that it was in the, I think we would call it the stormwater awful zone, for lack of a better term than I can say on public television. And given that we need some clarification of whether this is considered a back tax sale or whether this is surplus property sale, I'm willing to ask for a one meeting deferral and reconsider my deferral to July later. I think what is important is that what we get before us is clarity on whether this is a back tax sale or whether this is Metro surplus property, and how the fiscal policy that was extremely responsible, in my opinion, and most of you agreed with me when you voted for the bill, how it applies. So with that, I'm going to ask y'all to let's defer this one meeting, get all the information before us.
So you're withdrawing your...
I'll withdraw my first motion to defer to July. I am making a motion to defer it so we can get the information. I need to examine this because it is a disaster zone. And then secondly, I would like more clarification from our council and from Metro Finance about whether this is surplus or whether it's back tax.
All right. So, Council Lady Hurt, Council Lady Hurt, you were on the queue before. You want to talk about this?
Right. I was actually wanted to talk about surplus properties, but if we're going to have more time where we can discuss it, and that was the reason why I seconded the deferral, because I need more time. So.
Okay.
There's an amendment. They may want to defer it as amended.
Also, there's an amendment, and is somebody, I'll make a motion. I'm one of the sponsors. So before we move forward, I'm going to move that we amend the legislation. So I move to amend, and there's a second. Councilmember Sledge.
My apologies, Chair. What does the amendment do?
The amendment
It adds that
simply,
one.
it adds the Ash Grove
Gotcha, okay,
Drive.
okay.
That was
Sorry.
intended in the original and just was not.
Okay. All in favor, say aye. Oppose? All right. Now we go to the the request for a one meeting deferral by Councilor Lady Murphy. Do I have a second? All in favor, say aye. Oppose? Legislation is deferred for one meeting. Next item is BL 2018-1363 by Hueso and Glover. There is a letter to approve. Councilor Lady Mina Johnson, Councilmember Syracuse, you want to talk about this?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So we have so far deferred this one twice, I believe, with the request that there be an additional community meeting with the remaining family members who own adjacent properties. That hasn't happened, and as we saw in an email exchange to the council, there was disagreement about whether that meeting actually occurred and whether it was 3 years ago or whether it was recently. The request from this body was that this meeting be current, not 3 years ago. So if that was the point that was in discussion, there hasn't been a meeting. My opinion about this one in particular is that this is hodgepodge development. This is not cohesive design. And ultimately, there hasn't been strong leadership here to move this forward. So I would, once again, request that this be deferred.
For 1 meeting, 2 meetings?
I believe at this point, this would ultimately be a indefinite deferral.
Well, the rule generally is the third deferral mandates that it be indefinite, but the one bill that is exempt from that are zoning bills. So you could defer this once and that be it. It'll not be binding on the body, so you'd want to make the same motion at the full meeting.
Well, probably defer 2 meetings at this point, and we'll see if that flies on the floor.
All right. Councilmember Syracuse is requesting a 1 meeting deferral?
Not counting the special meeting.
Sorry. I apologize. A 2 meeting deferral, not counting a special meeting. Is there a second? There is a second. All in favor say aye. Opposed? It passes. Next item, BL 2018-1388 by Murphy, Bentley, and O'Connell. It abandons an existing sanitary sewer main and easements and to accept a new sanitary sewer main, sanitary sewer manholes, and easements for a property located at 3964 Woodlawn Drive. There you go.
Last time we were here, I shared with you that the developer would not share his plans. They have now since shared their plans, but are going back on their promise for sidewalks. So we are going to continue to have to, unfortunately, hold this up, and I would like to defer it to the first meeting in March.
There is a request to defer to the first meeting in March, and there is a second. All in favor say aye. Oppose? Sorry, any discussion? I didn't ask them. Okay, it passes. Thank you. Next item, BL 2018-1442 by Bircher and O'Connell. It approves the acquisition of property from 4 parties and approves a participation agreement, a license agreement, and an easement agreement between Metro Government and Uptown Property Holdings, LLC, in connection with the development of the Nashville Yards project in downtown Nashville. Council Lady Murphy, you want to talk about it?
I do. I had the piece of paper. Oh, I found it. Okay, so this memo from Director Sturdivant, this is the outline of what we're going to be paying. Is that correct?
I think Mr. Sarvan is coming to the table to talk to you.
Good evening. What this list is are costs that could be eligible for reimbursement, but the amount, the 15.2, stays the same.
Okay, so these projects, I know that we have sidewalk projects and traffic signaling projects and very similar projects in all of our districts. I'm assuming that these are going to happen faster than the project in my district.
The way this is going to work is that the developer would actually build these.
They would build them, which would probably still fast track them from any projects in any of our other districts that Public Works would be building.
It's going to be on their schedule, but I think your point is you want me to say yes. Yes.
Thank you, Director Sturdivant. So I think when we first heard about Amazon, it was explained to us that it really came from the state ECD. They had a package, they locked it in the night before. We locked in our very typical $500 job deal ECD package, right? So that's when we first heard about it. So that averaged, I think the general sum is 15,000, or I'm sorry, 15 million in incentives from Metro to bring Amazon here. We were told that those Amazon job incentives would make the Nashville Yards development possible and that the resulting property tax revenue from Nashville Yards would then make the Amazon incentive worthwhile for us for budgetary reasons. Now we're seeing a separate incentive deal that evidently was a little bit hidden in the capital spending plan. We had to look very hard for it. And this one is taking the form of direct payment to the Nashville Yard developers. This is another $15.2 million on top of the $15 million in Amazon incentives. So the math on the property tax revenue, making it all worthwhile for us, has definitely changed. The payment for this one private development has doubled. We are told that without the Amazon incentive deals, Nashville Yards wouldn't happen. I'm sure we were told about this, I'm sure we will be told the same about this $15.2 million participation agreement for taxpayers to build the infrastructure for a private development. Don't believe it. The Nashville Yards developers, Uptown Property Holdings, have a deal of a lifetime with Amazon as a massive long-term tenant. This developer doesn't need more taxpayer money. They've already hit the lottery, and they've bought their winning lottery ticket when we gave Amazon $15 million to come here. This participation agreement is not a prudent use of city funds. Taxpayer money should be used on more pressing priorities: teacher pay, affordable housing, or just some of the things that I think we need to start with. The other things are our COLAs, our step increases, and making sure that sidewalks are actually funded in our neighborhoods. And so with that, I'm going to have to vote no on this.
If I may make a comment, this is the Planning, Historical, and Zoning Committee. So I hear what you're saying, and I empathize with your comments, but let's just keep this as a planning issue. The venue to discuss budget issues will be the Budget Committee. I hate to say this. I mean, I can't believe I'm saying this, but if we duplicate the conversations in each committee, then let's just try to keep it to if there's any planning issues or zoning or historical that are pertaining to this deal, if you guys don't mind. Thank you. Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. So with that comment, it's not necessarily planning, but I believe it was not brought up by a budget committee. So my question is just simple. In the analysis, it says Metro would make a payment annually over a multi-year period not to exceed 4 years. Payment would not exceed $6 million annually. I just curious, what is our $6 million annually that will be used for?
Okay. So is that a question to the administration?
Yes, whomever answered that question will be great.
It's simply a cap.
This is Matt Wilshire. I'd be happy to answer that question. And just to provide a couple of clarifications, I think this is an important point. So the capital spending plan was determined and approved in October of this year. That was done including $3 million for this that was called out specifically for this in that capital spending plan. As you all know, Amazon wasn't actually announced until November 13th. That decision was a completely separate and different decision. But the way the funds are allocated for this, rather than Metro putting all of the funds out initially, we thought it was more prudent and appropriate with the rollout of the infrastructure to have the payments go out over a series of years. And so the total value of the infrastructure to be constructed by Metro is $15.25 million. That includes $3.25 million funded by water that will happen this year, $3 million funded by Public Works that would happen this year. So you're at $6.25 million. That means the $9 million would come in future capital spending plans that this body, of course, would have to approve before those dollars could be allocated. And what that provision specifically was referring to is that of that $9 million, there could not be more than $4 million in any 1 year. So by definition, with $9 million remaining, that would stretch out at least over the next 3 years, right? 4 million, 4 million, 1 million. Does that make sense?
The number analysis I have in front of me is not to exceed $6 million annually and more than 4 years. So
yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm fine with the $4 million. I will take it. $6 million annually
yes,
allocated for various infrastructure projects.
Correct. The infrastructure projects that will be constructed for this project.
Thank you.
Thank you. Council members Withers.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just appreciate your comment that there was a very lengthy and very beneficial discussion yesterday about the financial matters of this particular deal, going down into which contractors are performing work. I mean, it was a very, very extensive discussion that was had in Budget and Finance yesterday, and I appreciate the emphasis on the planning and zoning aspect, which is what's before us. Just want to emphasize again, something that was brought up a little bit yesterday, but just want to emphasize again that this project was already approved by bodies that review planning and zoning with regard to the Nashville Yards project. That includes a very large amount of public infrastructure, such as streets, the decongesting of 10th Street, a very large public park that will remain public green space. This does contain a large amount of public infrastructure that anyone will be able to use, not just certain folks. And so I believe the overall value, again, was about 80, of which Metro is going to pay 15. That seems to be a pretty good deal in the minds of better financial minds than mine in the discussion yesterday. And just with all that, I encouraged folks in this body to look at it at least from the planning and zoning standpoint, and find that this project is very beneficial for the development of the downtown core, for the benefit of green space in downtown, which I know many of us are concerned about. And I'm very much in favor of this project and hope others can join me in voting in favor.
All right. Any other comments? Okay. So I guess we need a motion.
Move approval.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Do we have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? 2 no. Thank you very much. Please, I say that with respect. I appreciate the comment you made, Council Member. I was just trying to keep it in. Yes, I'm going to be in trouble. I know I'll be in trouble. I'm sorry about that. Next item, BL 2018-1364 by Kendall and Wiener. It changes 0.68 acres from SPR to RM20-A zoning for property located at 2805, 2807, 2809, and 2811 Delaware Avenue. There is a letter to approve. Is there a motion? Councilmember Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to make one comment because this bill was a bit confusing, and I think the sponsor of the bill was saying the density has not changed, only the usage is going to change. And according to the sponsor, he was originally not in favor of the additional usage. So, but since he's now asking for recommendation, I'm assuming he's okay with additional usage. So that was the question. Unfortunately, I cannot ask to the sponsor of the bill, so I may ask on the floor.
Very well. Is there a motion? Councilmember Sledge moves to approve. Is there a second? There's a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Aye. Oppose? It passes. BL 2018-1413 by Councilmember Scott Davis. There is a letter to approve. It changes 0.33 acres from RS5 to R6-A zoning for a property located at 927 Douglas Avenue. Council Lady Mina Johnson.
Yes, I have a question to the planning table. Is this zone change RS5 to R6A or RM20? Because the planning analysis we received, it stated originally it was applied RM20, and RM20 was disapproved and recommended R6A, but intensively talked about zone change to RM20. So I just wanted to make sure it's not RS5 to RM20, instead RS5 to R6A.
The request was to RM20. The Planning Commission recommended approval of R6A.
So can you confirm the sponsor of the bill is indeed asking R6A, not the RM20, going back to original request?
The bill is a request to R6A. We, planning, prepared and sent over the bill consistent with the approval of the Planning Commission to R6A.
Thank you for the confirmation.
Councilmember Brad Withers.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. This is one that I guess I think there is confusion, and because of discussion that was had, we did have a public hearing, which was on R6A. After that public hearing closed, the sponsor, I believe, I could be mistaken, but had indicated that he was potentially going to come back to this body looking for RM20. The council member in that area frequently changes things from RS to R6, which is we've grown accustomed to. That's okay. But I know with the staff analysis was very helpful for a number of reasons of why RM would not work there, given the lack of alley access and some of the other constraints on that site. So just want to say on record, I am in favor of R6A, but if the sponsor chooses to come to this body for the RM, I would probably have to disagree with my colleague on that. So I am in favor of this bill as we are seeing it today, assuming it is R6. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Councilor Murphy.
So I've got to echo some of those concerns. And so, Jameson, has the councilman requested an amendment other than expressing his intent on the floor?
My predicament is that any conversations I have individually with a council member, I have to retain the privilege until they direct me otherwise. So,
Okay, so there's not going to be like a late filed amendment tonight that you are aware of and can share with us?
There is not an amendment or substitute in the packet. That is correct.
Okay, I guess my dilemma, very similar to the councilman from District 6, is I don't want to get to third and we get sprung with an amendment and we're not able to re-refer. And so I'm torn on whether we want to hold it here and find out his intent or whether we want to try to let it go and then try to get it back in committee to discuss it. That's my concern here. And I'm at the will of the committee to make a motion to either keep it here, and I'm happy to entertain and second that or make that motion, or I'm happy to let it go through and then we roll the dice on whether we can bring it back on into committee. So, if anybody else wants to weigh in on those options.
Councilor Mina Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to make conditional motion. We will approve if the zone change request is RS5 to R6A. We will approve if the request is RM20. The motion is to disapprove. So conditional approve with zone changes R6A.
We cannot do a conditional motion.
So approve R6A, specifically R6A.
All right. So I see some more people on the queue. Councilor Hurt, are you wanting to talk about that particular issue?
Yeah, I'm a little confused because the paperwork says that it's RS5 to R6A. Planning has confirmed that it is 6A. So I don't understand what the problem is for us to be able to move forward and take the vote.
Is that a question to your peers? I mean, who do you want to ask? Councilmember Withers?
Well, I'm wondering, is it a legitimate question considering that it's already documented and it has been confirmed by planning?
I hear your frustration, but I'm not here to judge the questions that the committee members make. So
no, I'm asking if it's illegal. Is it legal, being that we already have something before us? I mean, I understand whatever objection that my colleague has. I'm just trying to understand protocol.
Yes.
Yes, I can answer that question, Chair.
Go ahead.
The reason I'm raising that question is each planning zoning committee, we receive the report from planning zoning. And on the header, it says zone change from RS5 to R6A. However, in the body, it says request to change RS5 to RM20, and talked about the density change, daily trip change, and how many units will be allowable in that. So that's why the way the report was written is very, very confused. That's why I wanted to make sure which zone change sponsor is asking for. Yes, if it's indeed the header state, RS5 to R6A, I have no problem with it. But everything in the detail of the report talked about RM20. That's why it is so confusing.
Council Lady, may I suggest a motion that you approve it and ask that it be re-referred to the Planning Committee?
Yes.
Okay. So are you coming to talk about this? No, it's not yours. So Council Lady Mina Johnson has made a motion to approve and re-refer to the Planning Committee.
It's on third, so.
Never mind, I misread it. Okay, I gotcha. Okay,
So approve as R6A.
all right. All right, so there is a motion. Is there a second? There is a second. All in favor, say aye. Oppose? It passes. Thank you. Good debate. Thank you, Council Lady Hurt. Next item.
I'll lose you. Seven. We do not.
I don't think we have a quorum
We do
anymore.
not have a quorum. No further actions allowed. We have to adjourn. He's about to adjourn.
Okay, so regardless of the quorum, the items that are left to consider, the sponsors are not here. So we don't have Councilmember Anthony Edley here or Councilmember Soap here. So,
Question to Councilmember Hastings of the 35 or the planning?
yeah. Well, she can ask a question off the record.
Yes, just one quick question, because this plan, it says from SP to, let's see, RM15. So it seems like the final plan was submitted and nothing will change, and the building permit was already pulled.
Councilman, let's do this before I'm going to adjourn the meeting until we have a quorum, and then you can ask the question. So I'm adjourning the meeting. Is that the proper term?
You'll ask to move to adjourn.
And so I move to adjourn. There is
Lack of quorum.
a second for lack of quorum.
Second.
And so please go ahead and ask your question if you want to. You can come to the table, or I apologize that we lost our quorum. Oh, well. And I didn't even go to my own, defend my legislation.